Welcome back to the deep dive. You know that feeling this time of year, the air gets crisp, the nights start drawing in, and there's that weirdly specific energy you only get when you smell synthetic pumpkin spice and maybe see someone dressed as a terrifying clown.
It really is a spectacle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Modern Halloween, we're talking about a huge multi-billion-dollar global thing now built entirely on this idea of, I guess, controlled chaos.
Yeah, you see it everywhere. The carved grin of the jack-o'-lantern, that sugar rush from all the candy, the sheer fun of anticipating a jump scare.
Exactly. We all see the modern what and how, the costumes, the consumerism, all that stuff.
But our mission tonight, our deep dive, is to look beyond that. We want to dig into the really deep psychological and historical why. How did these, basic human instincts, our fascination with death, our need to bond socially, and that weird pull towards fear, how did they all get sort of packed into this one single night?
And to really get that, we have to go way back, like a massive leap back in time. We can't start in American suburbs with trick-or-treating. We need to start maybe 2,000 years ago, Celtic Ireland, with a festival called Samhain. Okay, Samhain, let's unpack that. Pronounced Samhain, right? That's the one, Samhain. And it wasn't just, a holiday. It was fundamental. It was the pivot point for the entire Celtic year.
How so? What did it signify?
Well, it marked this colossal shift. The Celts basically split their year into two halves. The light half summer, growth, harvest, and the dark half winter, cold, decay, death. Samhain fell on the night of October 31st because November 1st kicked off that dark half. So it was essentially their New Year's Eve, a huge seasonal and spiritual turning point.
Right, and that turning point is where we get that famous idea of the thinning veil. What did that actually mean to them?
It meant the night itself was liminal, a threshold space, a time when the usual boundaries between worlds just blurred. They genuinely believed that on this one night, the barrier between our world, the world of the living, and the other world, the realm of the dead, was at its absolute thinnest.
Okay, so that sounds potentially problematic. Or maybe good.
Both, really.
Yeah.
That blurring creates this incredible tension. On one hand, it was great. The spirits of your ancestors, loved ones who'd passed, they could potentially come back, visit their homes, be part of the community again for a night.
That sounds quite comforting, actually.
It could be, but the flip side was, well, if the veil is thin, anything can cross over. Malevolent spirits, mischievous fairies, other less friendly entities, they could slip through too and cause real trouble. This wasn't just ghost stories for fun. It was seen as a genuine risk.
So the rituals that came out of that must have been pretty serious then, designed to manage that risk.
Absolutely. Intensely communal and very practical. Think about the bonfires, for example.
Huge fires, right? Sacred ones.
Massive. And get this. Before the main bonfire was lit, every single household fire in the community had to be extinguished. Put out completely.
Wow. Why?
It symbolized a community-wide reset. Then the big sacred bonfire was lit, and its flames were seen as cleansing, protective. They were meant to drive away any harmful spirits hanging around.
And then people relit their home fires from that central one.
Exactly. Embers from the communal bonfire were carried home to relight the family hearth. It was a way of bringing that collective protection and the promise of warmth and light back into each home for the dark winter months. A really powerful symbol of community and renewal.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about costumes? Because we think of costumes now as fun, self-expression, but that wasn't the original point at all, was it?
Not even close. The original Celtic costumes were all about protective mimicry. People would wear disguises, sometimes animal skins, maybe grotesque masks.
Aye, to scare the spirits away.
Not quite. It was more about tricking them. The idea was, if you looked hideous or otherworldly enough, any malevolent spirit wandering by might mistake you for one of its own kind, just another spirit, and leave you alone.
That is kind of brilliant, actually. Practical folk psychology. Don't run from the scary thing. Blend in with it. Pretend you're the scary thing.
It's clever, isn't it? And they hedged their bets, too. They also left out offerings. Food, maybe some drink, placed outside the homes.
For who?
Well, two potential audiences. It was partly a respectful welcome for any ancestor spirits who might be visiting, but it was also, let's be honest, probably an appeasement tactic, like, here's some food, please don't cause any trouble for the less friendly visitors.
A bit of a bribe, perhaps.
You could definitely see it that way.
Yeah.
So you have these really deep-rooted traditions, but cultures don't exist in isolation, do they? They bump into each other, things start to blend.
Right, so Samhain starts to evolve as the Celtic world interacts with others.
Exactly. The Roman Empire, for instance. As it expanded, Roman culture and Celtic culture mixed. The Romans had their own autumn festivals. There was Feralia, which was a day, usually in late February, but with related practices, focused on honoring the dead. And they also celebrated Pomona, who was their goddess of fruit and trees.
And these happened around the same time of year.
Roughly, yes. Close enough that these Roman traditions likely started to merge and influence the existing Samhain practices. You get this natural cultural layering effect.
And then comes the really big shift, I suppose, the one that gives us the name Halloween. Christianity arrives.
Yes, and the early church faced a challenge with these deeply popular, ingrained pagan festivals like Samhain. Outright banning them often didn't work. People just kept doing them.
Yeah.
So a very common strategy was, well, co-option, integration.
Absorb it rather than fight it.
Pretty much. It happened across Europe.
Mm-hmm.
In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III made a significant move. He designated November 1st as All Saints' Day, or All Hallows' Day in Old English, a time to honor all Christian saints and martyrs.
Ah, so he puts a major Christian feast day right on top of the old pagan New Year.
Precisely. It was a conscious strategy to overlay a Christian meaning onto that potent time of year. And if November 1st is All Hallows' Day.
Then the night before, October 31st, is All Hallows' Eve.
Exactly. Which, over time, got contracted down to Halloween.
But here's the key thing, right? Even though the name changed, the official reason changed, the underlying feeling about that night, that didn't just vanish.
No, not at all. That's what's fascinating. The name changed, the religious framework shifted, but that core psychological resonance, the idea that this specific night was different, the boundary between worlds felt thin, the darkness was taking over that remained embedded in the culture, the date itself held onto its spooky power.
So fast forward quite a bit. This tradition, now sort of a Celtic Roman Christian hybrid, travels across the Atlantic.
Right. It came over with early British colonists, but it really exploded in North America thanks to the huge waves of Irish and Scottish immigrants, especially in the mid-19th century. Many were fleeing the Great Famine in Ireland. They brought their folk traditions with them, including their Halloween customs.
And when those customs landed in America, they started to adapt again, using what was available.
Absolutely. Two key things transformed dramatically and really defined the holiday we know today.
Okay, let's start with the big orange one, the jack-o'-lantern. That wasn't always a pumpkin, you said.
No way. Back in Ireland and Scotland, the tradition was to carve spooky faces into large turnips, or sometimes potatoes or beets. Much tougher vegetables to carve.
Turnips. Why? Is there a story there?
There is. It comes from an old Irish folktale about a character called Stingy Jack. The story goes, Jack was a trickster who managed to fool the devil multiple times. When Jack finally died, God wouldn't let him into heaven because of his sinful life. But the devil, annoyed at being tricked, wouldn't let him into hell either.
So it's stuck between worlds.
Pretty much. The devil supposedly tossed Jack a burning coal from the fires of hell to light his way in the dark. Jack put the coal inside a hollowed-out turnip and was doomed to wander the earth forever. People carved scary faces into their own Jack's lanterns, Jack-o'-the-lantern, to frighten away Stingy Jack and other wandering spirits.
That's a great, spooky origin story. But turnips, not very American.
Exactly. When the immigrants got to America, they found the native pumpkin. It was perfect. Much larger than a turnip, softer flesh, way easier to carve detailed faces into, and readily available during the autumn harvest.
So they just swapped the vegetable. Classic cultural adaptation, using the best local resource for the job.
It's a textbook example. The ritual survived by adapting its materials.
Okay, so that's the jack-o'-lantern. What's the other big transformation? This is where it gets really interesting sociologically, I think. Trick-or-treating.
Right. Because today we think of it as cute kids in costumes getting candy. But rewind to the early 20th century in America, and Halloween night was, well, it was kind of a menace.
A menace.
It had become associated with widespread pranks and vandalism, often carried out by teenagers and young men. It wasn't harmless fun. It was often genuinely destructive. Tipping over outhouses, egging houses, property damage. It was called Mischief Night in some places. It became a real social problem for communities. The trick part was getting out of hand.
So how did asking for candy fix that?
It seems to have been a gradual, community-led solution. Sociologists see trick-or-treating emerging as this really clever way to manage the chaos, instead of trying to stamp out the mischief entirely, which was proving difficult.
They channeled it.
Exactly. They effectively institutionalized an exchange. The community, the adults, often a deal. We'll give you a small treat, maybe initially homemade cookies, fruit, nuts, later candy if you promise not to pull any tricks on us.
So it's a way to buy peace, basically.
You could absolutely see it that way. It formalized the interaction, made it predictable, turned potential chaos into a structured, mostly harmless community ritual. It domesticated the wildness of Halloween night.
And presumably, candy companies saw a huge opportunity there
Oh,
eventually.
absolutely. By the mid-20th century, mass-produced candy became central, and the whole thing became much more commercialized, focused on children, and, well, safer. It solved a real social headache.
Okay, so that brings us more or less up to the present day. But let's talk about the psychology, because you listening right now, think about it. We spend billions globally every year on haunted houses, horror movies, spooky decorations, deliberately trying to scare ourselves. Why? It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? We're wired to avoid danger.
It does seem odd on the surface, but the key is in the idea of controlled fear. When you face a real threat, your amygdala, that primitive fear center in your brain, it just screams danger. That kicks off the whole fight or flight response. Adrenaline, cortisol flooding your system, heart racing, muscles tensing.
The pure panic response.
Right. But when you're walking through a haunted house or watching a horror movie, another part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, your rational thinking center, is also active. And it's constantly whispering, hey, relax. This isn't actually real. That guy's an actor. You're perfectly safe.
So you get the physical sensations of fear, but your brain knows you're okay.
Exactly. Your body gets that intense physiological rush, the adrenaline high, the endorphins, but without any genuine danger. Then comes the crucial part, the relief. When the scare is over, when you realize you're safe, you often get this flood of dopamine, a reward chemical. Your brain is basically rewarding you for surviving a threat that was never really there. That whole tension and release cycle, it can be incredibly addictive and feel really good.
Like riding a roller coaster, maybe? You feel like you're going to crash, then you don't, and you feel exhilarated.
That's a perfect analogy. But it's not just the chemical rush. There's an emotional element too, isn't there?
You mean catharsis?
Yes, exactly. Think about the themes Halloween often plays with. Death, the unknown, loss of control. These are deep, often subconscious existential fears we all have. Engaging with them in a symbolic, controlled way, like through a scary movie or a haunted house, allows us to confront those fears safely. And facing them, even symbolically, can leave you feeling strangely empowered afterwards, like you faced the darkness and came out okay.
And we usually do these scary things together, don't we? You rarely go to a horror film by yourself.
That's the vital social bonding piece. Experiencing intense emotions, even fear, together strengthens social ties. When you scream and laugh with your friends in a haunted maze, your brain releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. It reinforces that tend and befriend instinct. It builds group cohesion, even if it's under simulated stress.
Okay, one last psychological piece. The costume. We talked about its ancient origins as mimicry, but why do we still do it? Why do adults, especially, put so much effort into elaborate costumes?
It's about temporary liberation, I think. For one night, a costume allows you to suspend the normal rules of social interaction and, importantly, your own established identity. You can step outside of yourself, shed the constraints you live with day to day.
You can be someone else entirely.
Yes,
Yeah.
heroic, silly, terrifying, glamorous, whatever. You adopt an alternate persona, and that can be incredibly freeing. It lets you relax the usual internal editor, the social expectations, and just play. It's a designated space for performative release. It's sanctioned playtime for adults.
Which leads us right into modern Halloween. It really has become this incredible cultural canvas, hasn't it? A massive global industry, often ranking second only to Christmas in consumer spending in places like the US.
Its adaptability is key.
Yeah.
Yes, commercialization definitely stripped away a lot of the old solemnity, the deep spiritual weight of Samhain.
Hmm.
But it also made the holiday hugely accessible and flexible. It reflects whatever's happening in the culture at the time.
How do you mean?
Well, think about horror movie trends reflected in costumes, or how costumes now often engage with viral memes, political figures, social commentary. It shifts constantly. In the 70s and 80s, it might have been all about slasher villains. Today, it could be a character from a streaming show or a walking internet joke.
And for many adults now, it's almost like serious art and craft. People put incredible effort into costumes, into decorating their houses like elaborate movie sets.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's serious play. There's craftsmanship, creativity, performance involved. It's a form of self-expression shared within this huge temporary communal framework.
It's interesting, too, to quickly contrast it with another major tradition happening around the same time, Mexico's Dia de Muertos, the Day of the Dead.
Yes, that's a great comparison.
Yeah.
Because while they're close on the calendar and both deal with death, the whole emotional tone is completely different. Dia de Muertos isn't about warding off scary spirits. It's about joyously welcoming the spirits of deceased loved ones back.
Building altars, remembering them, celebrating the continuity of life.
Exactly. It's focused on memory, family, celebration, not so much on fear or mischief. It just highlights how different cultures can approach the same fundamental themes, life, death, remembrance, in profoundly different ways.
So when you boil it all down, the enduring success of Halloween seems to lie in its amazing ability to hold completely opposite ideas together at the same time.
I think that's absolutely right. It balances these contradictory psychological impulses perfectly. On one hand, you have that ancient primal need to acknowledge and maybe fear the power of death, the darkness, the unknown, that echo of Samhain.
And on the other hand,
You have the very modern, very human desire to control that fear, to mock it, tame it, commercialize it, turn it into entertainment. We get to be genuinely spooked and perfectly safe all at once. We get to touch something ancient while being completely modern. It's the ritualized contradiction that makes it work.
so wrapping this up, what does this whole journey mean for you, listening now, as you maybe get ready for Halloween yourself? This evolution from a pagan harvest festival to a global party is it's a remarkable story of cultural change and really psychological adaptation.
That core human need for some kind of liminal experience, a moment to stand on the threshold and acknowledge the darkness and the unknown that has somehow persisted for 2,000 years. We just found new ways to manage it. We took our fear of death and chaos.
And funneled it into a night of sugary exchanges and regulated mischief.
We turned primal anxiety into a profitable game, basically.
So when you carve that pumpkin, which replaced the turnip, or you put on that costume, which replaced the animal hide, you really are plugging into something incredibly old. You're connecting directly back to those Samhain bonfires, to the protective instincts, and the, frankly, psychological genius of those ancient communities.
The real magic on October 31st maybe isn't about supernatural spirits crossing any veil. Maybe the real magic is in the psychological spirits, those playful, perhaps darker, primal parts of ourselves that we, the living, consciously decide to let out for a few hours. We allow them to cross over into our shared reality just for a little while.
So this year, as you enjoy that little rush of controlled fear, maybe chasing a sugar high, just remember, you're taking part in a 2,000-year-old ritual, a collective attempt to manage our anxieties about the dark. You're perfectly safe, of course, but maybe keep that porch light on anyway, just in case.